And I'll post the recordings on a YouTube channel probably, unless I can figure out how to do it in Blackboard. And I'll give you guys a link to that later. Okay. And I'm going to try really hard to use the technology without telling you what I'm doing. There we go. All right, so here's the syllabus. And I really just combined your syllabus with the class right after yours, so they should be pretty similar. And we start the semester dates, of course, today through early December. And then most of this stuff is just pretty standard syllabus stuff, like why are you taking the history class? I know it's because you love history, but also you have to have it to get a college degree. This SCANS competency thing is just what skills you're required to have to be okay in this class, mostly reading and writing. There's very little super formal writing. I mean, we do have a book review that is technically optional, but if you do that, you'll want to follow formal writing policies, and we'll talk about that later. And you'll have written assignments that are due weekly, and then you'll have sort of like a quiz or a test, multiple choice or short answer about every 3 weeks. And you'll see that on the calendar here in just a minute. Okay. Typically, I'm going to lecture to you. We'll record this stuff, and I'll try to make sure that lecture notes and things are online. They're not there at the moment. And after we're done going over the syllabus, we'll look at the Blackboard page, and I'll show you where stuff is. Almost everything that I do that you need will be on the Blackboard page. The big exception might be the videos, which at least last semester I put on a YouTube channel. And that's the link to the YouTube channel. I think the old ones, oh dear, they won't be labeled CPHS Fall. They'll be labeled Fall 2020. I'm teaching another class, and I guess I forgot to change that in the syllabus. So apologies, but yours will just, you'll notice Fall 2020. And I'll put in an announcement once I post a video so that you'll know where to look. Okay. And again, you're taking this because you have to take U.S. history 6 hours. The 1301 is pre-Civil War. This is post-Civil War. And U.S. history is hugely important, so hopefully you'll enjoy it. I've had some people ask, do I have to buy the textbook? Oh, my phone's ringing. That's not cool. Yeah, yes, I'm going to go with yes on buy the textbook. And this is a link if you want to buy it digitally. You can buy it through the ACC. Dang it, with the phone, so sorry. And you can buy it through the ACC bookstore. And the link here is for an online version of the textbook, which is free because somebody, I think, sort of illegally posted it. It wasn't me. And this is the 5th edition, which I think will be really, really similar until you get to the last chapter. And in the 6th edition, they've added some stuff about Donald Trump. So if you use the 5th edition, I think you'll be fine until the very end. And then you guys are probably old enough that you noticed Donald Trump. So I think you would be fine with the online version if you don't want to buy one. But if you do want to buy one through the campus bookstore or that link. All right. And my goodness, somebody's calling my cell phone now. That is so crazy. I'm sorry. All right. Sort of like you, I'm sure no one ever calls me until I'm doing something. Grading system. So each week you'll have an assignment that's worth 10 points. So it's essentially one question over each chapter that we go over. And I've organized the stuff by chapter, and it's really just to keep stuff organized. It's not for any reason other than that, just to kind of help us keep track and to make it a little easier, hopefully, okay? So you'll have one question per chapter, and it's gonna be like an essay. You know, it's a short answer question. I wouldn't expect you to write like 5 or 10 pages. That would be really weird, but I would expect you to write about a page. Also, I would expect that you get the answer from the textbook. That's the whole reason I'm making you get the book. That's going to be your primary source of information. That does not mean you can't check other sources. Of course you can, but I don't expect that you will. I mean, we've provided or made you purchase, or you've gotten it online, this one resource. So that'll be the one I expect you to use. Okay, and your point total for the class is 300, and then 90% of those points would be an A, and you have to write a book review as well to get an A. And 80% of those points would be a B, 70 a C, and then you don't want to contemplate what's less than 70. So, and you'll get like 10 points a week, so you should be able to kind of keep up with this. Okay, did someone have a question? Okay. And, oh, I'm noticing all my typos. So late grades, try to not do too many things late. 2 late assignments after, and let me know if you know that it's going to be late. Now, if you're working on it the last day and your kid gets really sick and you've got to rush them to the hospital, please, tell me later. I had somebody once had a car wreck on the way to class, and then they stopped and emailed me. It's like, I'm not going to be in class because I had a wreck. Like, you can tell me that kind of stuff later. It's, I appreciate that you want U.S. history to be a priority, but, put it in line. But if you can do a couple of things or fewer late, that's good. And not the very last assignment. Please don't turn that in late. That would be sad. And I have the option of assessing a penalty, but try to be on time. I also understand that if I'm asking for all of these assignments, occasionally things are going to be late. Life happens. You guys have families, jobs, obligations, other classes besides U.S. history. So I get it. All right. You got to do a book review to get an A, and then we'll go over the book review in just a minute. That book review is due on Monday, November 30th. So you have time. You have a lot of time, okay? I know typically when I taught just high schoolers, they would do it during Thanksgiving. So, but you do it whenever you like, or don't do it. You only have to do it if you want an A. All right, and goodness, I do need to go back and change the course meeting. You know that we're not meeting on Tuesday and Thursday in the afternoon, so I apologize for that mistake. Withdrawing from class, that's up to you. Now, I'm sorry, back to attendance. I assume that you've set aside this time, the 10:30 to 11:50 for this class. Now, to be honest with you, I can't imagine that every single day we will meet from 10:30 to 11:50. And I won't just keep talking to do it. So when we've covered what we need to cover, we'll be done, okay? So just letting you know that. And if we finish early, I'll stay on in case some of you want to ask some questions. And also, I didn't put an official office hour, like where you could check in with me, but we'll kind of work that out as we go. I've taught for like 19 years at ACC. I have never, ever had any student come into an office hour. Now, clearly you physically can't right now. Typically students will email questions and I'll answer them. I have had parents come to office hours. Please, yeah, that's not cool. That's not cool at all. Okay. Withdrawing, that's, if you drop the class, that's up to you. I'm not involved in that at all, and I need to change the withdrawal date. God, I'm so sorry. So I'll change the withdrawal dates. They typically are about 2/3 of the way into class after you've had about 2/3 to 3/4 of your grades. So, and those are the last ones to withdraw without a grade, are kind of in the middle, and then, yeah. So we'll update those. The reason that I have that in here is some professors will withdraw you if you don't turn stuff in or if you miss class for 2 weeks or something like that. I just don't want to mess with that. That's your business. You take care of that. Student discipline, oh my goodness, on Zoom, I have no idea. Make sure you have clothes on if you're showing your picture, and don't swear if you can help it. I never swear, but I'm weird. If you swear occasionally and that's your normal thing, I mean, just don't get on and say like F you, Cerna, or something. That would be uncool. Student privacy, this is trickier with Zoom because all your names are up there and that kind of thing. So if you don't want your name up there, I guess you can fix that on your end, or I really don't know. But I won't post your grades in a public place. That'll all be on Blackboard. And if you have questions about your grades, you can email those questions. I'm not supposed to share grade information with anybody besides you. I've had spouses and parents ask about grades before and attendance, and I can't and won't talk to them about any of that sort of stuff. And tricky as well, because I'm really not supposed to talk to you by email about that, so we'll have to figure things out. Also in the Blackboard section where you turn in assignments, I'll make some comments about your assignments so that you will know why you got full credit or why you didn't get full credit. Typically there's a rubric that has a general description, and I may add more information. ADA, if you have accommodations or modifications, you apply through the Office of Student Assistance, and then you send me the form, which, you know, if you've done that before, you know exactly how to do that. If you're new to college, in high school, that was done for you. In college, you do that yourself. So you'll want to take care of that in the next couple of weeks if you haven't, and I know that some of you already have, so good job. Here's the biggest problem that I had last semester, was cheating. And I don't, you know, academic dishonesty. If you decide, like, I don't really want to answer these questions this week, so I'm just going to go to Google and find the first source that I have and then copy and paste that. Guess what that is? That is academic dishonesty. You can't do that. So, well, you can do that, but I'll notice. So you just need to make sure that you always turn in your own work, that it's in your own words. Now, I'm not saying you can't ever quote somebody, but we have quotation marks to indicate that. So, you know, if half of your answer is from, I'm lazy, so I copied the history from the internet.com, that's not a quote, you know. An occasional quote is fine. But you copying and pasting from, my goodness, Wikipedia, really? Really? Come on. You can at least cheat from a better site than that. Don't copy stuff from online. Make sure that you're the person who answers the question. You could use the textbook. It's got an index as well. So, you know, look at the back. You can find the stuff. It'll be okay. But it won't be okay if you cheat. So don't do that. I know last semester I said, like, hey, I noticed this link where you found your stuff. And the student said, well, I only copied and pasted about half of it. I'm like, no copying and pasting. Okay, it's not a marketable skill, really. All right, the Common Course objectives, that's just the list of everything that you're supposed to know by the time we're done. And I put in parentheses what chapter you would find those things in. These are not direct questions that I'm asking you, so this is something I'm required to put on the syllabus. And if you look over those when we're done, you'll go like, yeah, I know that. So a big long list, which I'm not going to read. All right, class schedule. These dates should be correct, unlike a couple that we went through earlier. So the class lasts 16 weeks, I think, 16. And so this tells you all the due dates. Now, I'm going to give you technically a weekly assignment or a weekly question, and there'll be 14 or 15 of those. And then, but they're not due each week is the difference. Now, you can turn them in whenever you want. So if you're one of those people that needs to do it a little bit at a time, so do the first question the first week, the second question the second week. If you're one of those people who is a professional procrastinator and you just want to turn it all in at once, you can do them all Friday at 11 o'clock at night because they're due at midnight. I wouldn't advise that, but some of you are going to do that because either that's how you are or your life's super busy. But this is all spread out so that you can turn it in a little bit at a time if that's better or easier for you. If you're one of those people that's like, nope, I got to do it all at once, you can turn them all in on the 18th at midnight, 11:59 technically. So, and you'll have all of those questions ahead of time, and you can decide how you want to turn them in. Now, once you turn them in, I will probably grade once a week. So I'll look on Saturday and see if anybody's turned stuff in, and I'll probably grade it. I am thinking that you should just turn stuff in once. So once you've turned it in, unless you email me really quick and go like, oh no, I didn't mean to turn that in, I will probably do grading on Saturdays. So if you turn it in and then rethink it, just let me know before Saturday and say like, hey, don't grade that. And I'll go like, okay, sounds good. So your first big due date is Friday the 18th. And you'll notice they're about once a month, then Friday the 16th, and then Friday the 13th of November, and then Friday the 11th of December, with the book review kind of weirdly in the middle on Monday, November 30th, which is right after Thanksgiving. Okay. And then here it tells you how many points everything is worth. So each of the weekly questions is worth 10 points. Some of the units have 3 chapters, some have 4, which is why you have the different point totals. And your quiz for each section will be multiple choice or short answer, and then that'll be worth 40 points. So you've got 3 weekly questions plus a 40-point quiz, 4 weekly questions plus a 40-point quiz. And the quizzes will be online in Blackboard. And I really thought about, you know, should they download some super secret, limit the browser kind of software? And my thought was we all have enough technology problems as it is, so I kind of went with no, realizing that that doesn't necessarily promote honesty 100% of the time, but our expectation will be that when you're answering those online questions that you're not using outside resources, you're using your brain, okay? And I will give you at some point, like the week of the 18th or before, a list of things you may want to review before you look over or before you take the online version or the online quiz. Does that make sense? All right, I think I'm going to pause for a minute because I've talked a very long time, it feels like. Okay, and see if you guys have questions so far. The next thing we'll go over is the book review, and then we'll look online to see where all the stuff is. You're still here, that's good. I was worried. Please ask, Christopher. Can you, yeah.
Yeah. Is there any kind of final exam or like cumulative final, or is it just throughout the semester?
No, it's just throughout the semester, so I didn't make a cumulative test. If that makes you guys sad, let me know and we'll add it. But I usually just do the 4 individual tests, so. Okay, oh, somebody put in a question, let's see. How long are the quizzes? Okay, yeah, I do need to take a snapshot, don't I? Yeah, thanks for that hint. The quizzes will be, 8 questions, so each question will be, it's short, yeah, it's short. So the quizzes will be, I think I was planning on 8 questions, 5 points each, because they're 40 points each, yeah. So that'll be a little tricky. And I'll ask stuff that I didn't ask in the short answer questions, and I will give you a list of stuff to review for those. Oh, and you ask how long as well, sorry. So how long will it take to answer those? That is, I'll typically give you an hour. And I know some of you have, you know, may need more or less time. The way that I'll set it up is there'll be a timer that goes for an hour. You do have to complete it all in one sitting. If you go over an hour, it's not going to kick you out. It's just going to tell me that you went over an hour. So if you take like 3 hours, my guess is, you know, you've looked everything up, you know, there's something odd going on. But I didn't have anybody over the summer that had any trouble completing any of the quizzes in less than an hour. So, okay. All right.
I have a question.
Please ask. Yeah.
So for the weekly question,
Uh-huh.
it's that it's due, like 3 of them are due on the 18th.
Mhm.
And if you were to, like, I'm the type of person that has to do one like on 1 week, one.
Mhm.
I don't wait. Will
Right.
that be okay?
Yep.
Okay, perfect.
Yep. Yeah, that's kind of why I set it up that way, because I thought, yeah, if you're that person, I don't want to make your life harder. Yeah.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Uh-huh. You're welcome. Sorry. Goodness.
Another question.
Okay, please go ahead.
For the 18, so is the quiz going to be on the 18th or the 19th? Because on the dates it says 9/13 to 9/19, but then on the due date it says 9/18.
Oh, I'm gonna ask that you have it done by Friday. I'll put it online. I did have trouble with this over the summer. So my goal was to, like, I made them and then I put it to where it was supposed to open on Wednesday. So that way you had from Wednesday to Friday, which is what I plan to do again. But then a couple of times when I put it online on Wednesday, it was hidden. So if you go to take it on Wednesday and it's not there, you can email me. But I think I figured out why that happened, so it shouldn't happen again. So you'll have from Wednesday to Friday of the last week before it's due, and my expectation is that you'll have it done by Friday. Now I'll leave it open so that you can still view it after Friday. So if you do it late, but if you, yeah, try to do it on time. All right. Do you guys have other questions? And I feel like somebody sent me a document in the chat, so I'm trying to figure out how to open that.
You said recording.
Am I
You
still?
said recordings will be on YouTube, right?
Yes.
All
Yeah,
right.
that's the plan. So, yeah, and this amazing recording will be on YouTube as well, so we can relive this. It's like, oh, wrong date. All right. So, other questions, or shall we go back to the book review? First day is fun, isn't it? Book review. Okay, we'll go back to the book review. Okay. Book review. All right. All right, so you only have to do the book review if you want an A. And A's are nice, so, and they're useful sometimes, so I get it. If you don't want an A, no shame, no harm. Now, this can add up to 20 points to your grade, so you may want to do it anyway. So like if you are getting like a 68 on everything, you probably want to do the book review so you can get up to that 70 sort of thing. Now, so book review, you got to read a book, and it's a little different than a book report. And I won't read all of this word for word because that's not very fun. But you pick a history book that has something to do with the United States. Please, the United States. I know for some reason, I don't know what's wrong with you people, but you all want to read a book about Hitler. No, you cannot read a book about Hitler. He's not from the United States. You cannot blame us for Hitler, okay? So, but it has to do with US history in some way. Now, it doesn't have to be like super scholarly US history. You'll notice in the list of books that I have, some of those things are about boxing. You know, I mean, you can pick a book that is interesting to you that somehow impacts US history. And the length of the book review is about 1,500 words. So that's 4 to 5 pages, more or less, double spaced kind of thing. Okay. And it has 3 sections. And the first section is what happens in the book. And just a brief, like the first third of the book is about the guy's childhood, and he grew up in Connecticut and whatever. And then the second part of the book is about his training and his time in the military, and he went to West Point and, you know, this. And the third part is about his service in World War II. So just real general stuff. And that should be about a page, page and a half. And then part 2 is for the author's thesis. So there's a reason that people write a book, and usually for a novel, you know, they want to teach you something about life, or they want to make you feel a certain way. For a history book, they want to teach you something or tell you something very important about somebody's contribution to something. Typically, a historian will say in the introduction or the foreword of their book what their thesis is. So that's where you want to look for that thing. Now, if you read the whole book and still have no idea why the guy wrote the book, that is a problem, isn't it? So either they didn't write the book well, or you didn't read it carefully, or who knows. Could be a combo. But so you look for the author's thesis, the reason they wrote the book. Now, if it's a biography, you're really kind of looking for what is so important about this person that they chose this person rather than any other person in the world. Why was that person so important for me to know about? What was their contribution to life? Okay. And so you find their thesis, and then you point out pieces of the book, examples in the book where they prove the thesis. So let's say that you read a book about, say, Eisenhower, and you want to assert that he was the most important military figure of the 20th century. So you'll want to talk about how he planned the D-Day assault, or how somehow he got General Montgomery to work with other people, and then you'll show examples from the book. And then the third part, and you can even label the things like part 1, part 2, part 3 if you like. The third part is your evaluation. Did you like it? How does it compare to other stuff you knew about history? How does it compare to stuff in the textbook? So that's where you may want to use the index part of the book. Do you agree or disagree with the book? Do you think it's well written? Do you think other people should read it? That sort of thing, okay? So that one's pretty personal, but I mean, you do want to have some evidence-based conclusions there. So you want to compare what you knew or what it says with the textbook. And if there's nothing in the textbook about what you read, like if you read that book that I have on the list about boxing, it does not talk about boxing in our textbook. So, you know, you would say like the book doesn't specifically mention this, but it does talk about the Vietnam conflict. I did have a person one time talk about how poorly written the book was. It was really hard to understand, and that book had won a Pulitzer Prize. So, you know, and sometimes people will say like the book is boring. That is not a very academic critique of a book. So it doesn't mean that you can't be bored by the book, but maybe they talked too much about somebody's childhood, or they talked too much about why their favorite color was green, or something stupid like that. You can say that, like, this part was confusing, I think this part was unnecessary, but don't just say it was boring. And then it'll either be accepted or not accepted. The only reason I wouldn't accept it is if I think you plagiarized. If I think you plagiarized, I will send you the link where I found your information. So yeah, I won't just capriciously say like, hey, that sounds like you cheated. I will find the place where I found your information. I would never, ever accuse you of plagiarism without 100% proof. And it's so obvious when people do it. You know that it is, so don't do it. Okay. And I have a list of books, but you absolutely don't have to choose a book from this list. If you want to read something else, just let me know, because it's a really small list, and it's mostly stuff that I read for some other classes, or that I suggested for some students. So, and some of these are kind of long as well. So I've got a YouTube video, I think, where I go over all of these books. So I don't know that I want to do that today, in part because, one, you're probably tired of hearing me talk, and two, you're probably not planning to start the book review today. But I'll just really quick. This first one is about Martin Luther King Jr., and Taylor Branch was a newspaper reporter who followed him around. This is about some guys who disagreed with the New Deal or added to it. So Great Depression. This, if you have a short attention span, is a lovely book because it's a collective biography. So it's about 6 or 8 different Native American leaders. So it's, you know, 6 or 8 short chapters. This is about Eisenhower's presidency and how people maybe didn't think he was assertive as president, but he had kind of different methods of doing things. This is a kind of controversial book about a guy, newspaper reporter, who wanted to write about how African Americans were mistreated in the late 50s and early 60s, but couldn't get what he believed to be legitimate information, so he went undercover as an African American man. It's a weird book, but kind of interesting. This is the autobiography of Malcolm X, which is a fascinating thing, and it's kind of co-written by Malcolm X and Alex Haley. Bad Blood it's depressing. It's about a medical experiment where they use the Tuskegee Institute to test methods of treating syphilis on poor Black men in Alabama. It's not pretty. Gerda Weissman Klein's book, All But My Life, because people just wanted to read about the Holocaust over the summer. It's like, I got nothing for you because that didn't happen in the United States. So this is about a lady who was a Holocaust survivor and married a US soldier who was one of the ones who freed the concentration camp she was in. This is probably the best book about Brown versus Board of Education that you'll ever read, but it's kind of a scholarly legal history book, so it may not be exciting to all of you. This is the boxing book I kept mentioning, Ghosts of Manila, which is about the Ali Frazier fights, but it also combines a bunch of information about popular culture plus the Vietnam movement, anti-Vietnam movement. And Trouble in Mind is about Jim Crow laws, discriminatory laws that adapt from slave codes to Black codes after the Civil War. Détente and the Nixon Doctrine is about Nixon's foreign policy, which is amazingly good. I know we hear Nixon and we think Watergate, but there's other stuff. This is about Homeward Bound, about the expectation of women in the 1950s, and it's a little racier than you might expect. It's a little more of a feminist history piece than it probably looks in the title. Anything about Teddy Roosevelt would be interesting to most people. The Al Capone book is short, so people sometimes like it, but it also stops before he goes to jail. So if you read that, you might want to, because I've had people read it and they go like, well, he never really got in trouble like I thought he did. It's like, yeah, he did. It's just they stop before it talks about that. McCarthy's the guy who accuses everybody of being a communist during the 1950s and kind of rises, falls, and then dies. Eleanor Roosevelt fought really hard for civil rights and the rights for poor people during the Great Depression, a little bit before it was a popular thing to do. So she's an interesting person. Home Before Morning is a Vietnam nurse story. This is, very personal viewpoint of Vietnam, and it starts out very positive. She's really gung-ho, let's go stop communism, and then it ends pretty poorly with a messed up life. She lives through it, but it's kind of a mess. And then this is about Watergate, Woodward and Bernstein. And then that'll depress you as well. Talks about what the US government knew about the Holocaust before it happened and how we did or did not intervene. And then here's the rubric, how I'll grade the book. So it's mostly, by section a little bit, and then grammar. Okay, I'm going to stop sharing so that I can look at your questions. So, all right. Yeah, somebody needs to go. Please go. You could read, you probably could read Gulag Archipelago, probably, yes. It does need to be 1877 to the present, and all right, do you guys have other questions? And I'm typing something to somebody. But yeah, if you're the person that has to go, please, my goodness, yeah.
If you another book, just send you an email.
You can absolutely read another book. Just email me the name of the book and who wrote it. Yeah.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah, you don't have to pick from that list. Okay, anybody else?
It has to be nonfiction, right?
That is correct. It's really hard. I've had people want to do a novel before, but to be honest with you, it's normally because they're reading it in their English class and they want to get like a 2-for-1. But a lot of times the novels don't work well because you would have to spend a lot of time talking about if the setting and the characters are accurate for the time period. And, you know, at your stage of being a historian, I'm not sure that that's an easy task for you. For some of you, it might be pretty simple because, you know, there's always a couple of you that have watched the History Channel since you were a baby. So, yeah. All right, we're almost done. Okay. All right, the next thing we'll look at, and then we're done, I promise. You're going like, oh, first day, I'm tired, is, let's see. I wanted to show you the Blackboard thing, but I don't see it. Darn. Okay, let me find it. So I wanted to look at the Blackboard page. Oh, that was the survey. Okay. All right, let me see if I can figure out how to do this. One more try. Crud, I'm sorry. There we go. I think this is it. Can you see it? Yeah, it says I'm sharing. Okay. All right. So when you log into your Blackboard page, you should have, I don't know what your page looks like. I assume it looks like the blue part and that I just get the brown part, but I don't know. So the announcements should show up there. I don't think I have any tools in there. My side, it's taking attendance. Course evaluation, you could do that probably. On the course documents, what I put in were the outlines for the chapters that were made by the textbook company. So that's what's in there. What I'll add to there are my lecture notes, and I'll update those tomorrow. I want to look one more time at those before I post those. And I'll redo the syllabus to take out some of the errors that we just noticed. So there's just an outline for each chapter. I'll open one of those just so you can peek at it, I think. And it has a little summary, and then it's really just a traditional outline. I have no idea if this will be helpful or not, but I had it, so I thought I'd put it in. And then it has some other resources if you really liked stuff in the chapter where you could check things like online resources. So, all right. That's not what I was looking at. Okay. And then here are the Unit 1 weekly questions. So I've already listed those, and you'll see them. So you've got one for chapter 15, one for 16, and one for 17. So those are already posted if you're ready to go. And then oops, that is not what I meant to do, is it? I don't want to cry in front of you. There we go. Sorry. Okay. And like I said, I'll add the lecture notes, and I'll put those like all in the same section. So your assignments, there's a sample question and answer, so it would show you how kind of an expectation of how much detail to put into it. And your assignments will be here. And then I've already posted the assignments in the Blackboard page, and this is where you'd submit them. And I posted them individually, so you submit them one question at a time. You can do all 3 questions at the same time, you know, you can turn them all in at the same time, but I did them individually in case you wanted to submit them separately. And then the syllabus, which I'm sure I will go back and update, will be there. Okay, all right. Okay, more questions. Yeah, you may want to look at chapter 15 or the first question before next class. That would probably be a good idea. I think that question is technically due well, unofficially next week, but of course due on the 18th. So, but yeah, I would go ahead and start looking at chapter 15, which is about Reconstruction, the period after the Civil War. And the question that I always ask about Reconstruction was it a failure or a success? So I know that's your question for this. And okay, all right. Do you guys have questions or comments or concerns? My gosh, it's a lot of talk. Okay. So we'll start chapter 15 a little bit on Thursday, and that'll give us more time to talk on Tuesday. The other thing that we'll talk about on Thursday is probably the lecture notes, where to find them and what I'll do with them, that sort of thing. So, and then by Thursday, I'll have posted this exciting video, and then we'll make sure that you could all get them. Gosh, okay, so the question about when you complete the assignment, do we drag them and drop the file into the assignment box? Yes, yes, I believe that's correct. Now, one thing, I don't know if you guys have done this before, and I do it on my end, so I don't exactly know what happens on your end. There's always like one person each week whose stuff I couldn't read. And so if that happens, I'll just email you back and say, hey, I couldn't open your document. Seems like typically if it's a Word document or a PDF, it does seem to work. So I don't know. And then occasionally somebody would put it in and it would be in one long line all the way across, and I would have to scroll forever. And I have no idea why any of those things happen. Typically, whatever you drop in there, it just seems to work perfectly. So I don't know. All right, do you guys have other questions? Okay, I'm going to stop recording here in a minute, and then you guys can go. And if you want to stay behind and ask something specific, feel free to do that. I appreciate you guys coming for the first day and all your patience with the, weirdness and the typos and stuff. I'll go back and fix the syllabus and repost it so all the dates and things are correct. All right, so let me stop recording now.